Well, I'm from Boston, like born and raised there for the first 18 years of my life, um, and was like got super into photography, and modeling in high school. So it made sense like naturally to me that like after spending 18 years in Boston and like being so close to New York City and like studying art and doing modeling, like the next move for me naturally would be to move to New York City. So in 2017 I moved down here, and started going to Parsons for photography, and started modeling in New York, um, and making YouTube videos here about um, life at Parsons and like life in New York City. Um, and yeah, that's kind of my story. And like in this past year, like I publicly came out on my YouTube channel as a trans woman, um, and yeah, my life has majorly improved since then. I would say like I've definitely been um, doing a lot more exciting like modeling jobs and photography and like art projects. Um, so yeah, that's my overall story. Yeah, I went to Boston Arts Academy, which is like the only public arts high school in Boston. And like it's like the kind of school, it's like in downtown Boston, and it's like inner city kids, and like there's 5 majors. And I was in the visual arts program, but it was also like theater kids and music and dance. Um, and so it was very much like the TV show Victorious in a lot of ways. Or just like, yeah, it was very, very art school. Like when I was going into freshman year, like I auditioned for theater and for visual arts, and like honestly, if I had gotten into theater, like who knows what I would be doing now. Like maybe I would be um an actor or something and not like doing photography, but everything happens for a reason, you know. It's not as like cool as it is on TV at all. um but it's definitely like, it was definitely like a lot of kids like singing and dancing in the hallways and just like being kind of crazy overall. Or, like doing stretches and leotards in the bathroom and you're like, I just am trying to go pee. um I honestly felt like the thing about that project that was so exciting and groundbreaking for me is just that like Tommy Hilfiger as a brand, like their brand image is so patriotic and like so like quintessentially American. And so to do a fashion campaign with a trans model at the center of it, and with a lesbian couple at the center of it, and with a black gay dancer at the center of it, it's like putting those people like as the faces of fashion in America for this like patriotic and American brand. And like I think that what's such a great stride about it is that it's like putting those people whose identities have been marginalized for so long, like in the spotlight, in the place that was once only accessible to like white cis skinny models. So that was it was a huge honor to be able to do a project like that. My first time ever doing a photo shoot with my mom, and like we filmed this like video shoot which I shared on my Instagram, but like they asked us all to talk about our experiences and like what pride means to us. But like I just think it's so special to like have such a big brand do a fashion campaign with a mother and daughter, and like the daughter is trans, and like putting it out there for the world to see like how happy and normal a life like a trans person can have, like when their parents are supportive of them. And so bringing awareness to that and like putting it um or like putting it or viewing it through a fashion lens, I think was really, really important, because I feel like that kind of thing hasn't been done before. Well, I think there's a balance because there Black trans women face so much violence, like they face so much more violence than like any other kind of person, like at an exponential rate. Um and so I think that it is important to bring awareness to that, and I highlight that on my Instagram to normalize the brutality or the brutalization of Black trans women. And I think it's important to then highlight like people like Marsha P Johnson, who's why we celebrate Pride. And like it's like important to remember that the first Pride was literally like a riot, and it was a fight for human rights. And I think that we're still fighting for human rights, so it's important to bring awareness to these women whose lives have been cut short by transphobic violence. And it's important to bring awareness um to the icons of our past who paved the way for us. And highlight Black trans women in their lives as sacred and special. So that's why that's been important to me. Well, I've definitely been just like posting as many resources as I come across, because I at the beginning of not even this whole movement, because this movement has been going on much longer than like the past 2 months, but like 2 months ago when things started picking up again, I was in a place of confusion. I didn't really know what my place in this was. I didn't know how to share my voice or how to be an ally without silencing someone else, or someone else's voice who's more important than mine. And I also didn't want to come across as like this white savior who's trying to save the day, because that's not my place either. And then I realized I have this platform of 52,000 followers on Instagram, and it's like those people are all absorbing what I post and like seeing what I say. And then I was like, well, it's pointless to sit here and do nothing. And so I just started collecting resources and sharing them on my page, whether it was um, bail funds or like Black trans individuals that people could directly donate to and like redistribute their wealth to, um, or just like information on like how to educate yourself, books to read, movies to watch, that are um, steps you can take to actively be anti-racist. Because I just feel like a lot of my platform has been built on things I've done in my past, like working at places like Brandy Melville, where it's such a large like white customer base, kind of like that's like the company is notoriously known for marketing, like targeting their marketing to like affluent skinny white women. And so I know that I've built a huge following off of that, and a lot of my followers are white women like me. And so I felt like it was important to use my voice when all of these people are hearing it, and just educate them, because that's really all we can do is be educated. And if you have you know more funds than you know what to do with, redistribute them to the people that don't. And just continue to work and be an ally. And that's just like, I want to set that example on my page, because if so many people are looking at what I'm doing, like that's what I want to be doing. Well, my first video on my channel that can be viewed right now is a video that I made as a freshman in high school. But I actually started my channel in like the middle of 7th grade, and all of those videos are private now, because they're just really like, the ones that are still up are embarrassing enough, but the ones that are private now are super embarrassing. But I started my YouTube channel because I had just transitioned socially. Like I just started presenting as female like when I was going into 7th grade. And so starting out that year, you know, I didn't have that many friends. I was kind of an outcast or a weirdo to a lot of people. And like, I would just come home every day and like I didn't really have anyone to talk to. I'm an only child. And so I was very lonely and I started watching a lot of YouTube videos. Like I just like was obsessed with like the beauty YouTubers and like the comedy YouTubers. Like Jenna Marbles was my number one. And like Daily Grace, who was this comedian who posted every day. The classic beauty gurus like Ellen Blair, and like Bethany Moda, they were my idols. And I was so like bored and lonely, and I was, you know, like 11 or 12 years old at this point. And I had just gotten a camera for my birthday, so I was like, why don't I just like start making my own YouTube videos? Like I can do this. And so when I started making videos, they were like a mix between like comedy skits and like beauty tutorials and like makeup and clothing hauls, because that's just like what I was watching online. And I think my first video that ever got a lot of views was a hot buns hair tutorial, which was like this as seen on TV like, to make buns, like, and that was my first like viral video, you could say. And so after that, like, I mean, I was posting at least once a week, maybe twice or three times. But like after that one video got big, like every few videos I would post, like I would get more and more views. And so I just like kept doing it because I was like, this is crazy. People are just like watching what I'm up to. And it kind of stuck around as this hobby and this passion for me, making videos. Um, I would say both, like in terms of mediums, working with different mediums, I would say both photo and video um, bring me a lot of joy. But I think when I'm, you know, most fulfilled or most inspired or just like making my best work, is probably like when I'm collaborating or like just doing a project with someone else, and like I can like bounce my ideas off of them. We can like critique each other. And that's honestly like a really big skill that I've learned like through art school, and like having to do like silly group projects from time to time, or like, you know, more often than I would like to. But like I've really learned the value of like working with someone else and like having someone else's brain power, because like just like I've realized how differently people's minds work. And like when you're making art with someone else, or even just like if I'm the only artist there, but like I'm photographing another person and like getting their feedback, like I feel like that's collaborative in a lot of ways. And that's when I feel most fulfilled, because I feel like I'm not just like making something for myself, I'm like making something with someone else, like for us, for the world, kind of, as prolific or cheesy as that sounds. But yeah, I feel the most fulfilled when I'm collaborating. Yeah. Um, I would definitely like, I can't like attest like all of our happiness and like success as a couple to like us both being trans, but I do think that like neither of us have ever been in a relationship before where our partner um wasn't cisgender. And like I think when you're in a relationship and you're trans and your partner isn't, like it's so easy to like be othered or feel othered, and just like not feel like as equal to your partner. And it's just like a very kind of like isolating experience and just like sad. And I think like being in a relationship with someone who shares a similar identity to me, like we just came into the relationship like viewing each other so equally and so openly, and like willing to like learn about each other and explore, and like no question was off limits. Like we just both felt so comfortable with each other. And because of all of that, like it really has just created like the healthiest and like best relationship I've ever been in. um so yeah, highly, I mean, I'm a big fan of my T for T relationship. Um, it's kind of funny because like I wouldn't say that I have like an official coming out story in terms of like telling my parents that I was trans because like from the second I could like form a thought and like say a word, like it was just all it was all female. Like I was a girl. And like the only like there's a story that my dad always tells, and because he always tells it, I always tell it. But I was like 2 or 3 years old, and like in the bathtub, and like by this time, like at this point, I already had like 20 Barbie dolls, like dresses, like girl clothes and stuff, because my parents just like let me kind of explore and like play dress up as a kid. But I remember being in the bathtub, like clutching on to my Barbie dolls and like crying to my dad, being like, I know I'm supposed to be happy with who I am, but I'm like not happy with what I am. Um, and that was kind of like the whole start of the journey. So I guess you could say that was my coming out story. But I don't know. It's been like kind of just my whole life. Um, that's a good question. I feel like my answer is always changing. Um, I think like my biggest photographic influence right now is Ryan McGinley, because like he was the youngest photographer to have a solo show at the Whitney Museum, and like his work is just like very emblematic of like youth culture and freedom. And so like I love that vibe and want to capture that in my work. So he's my biggest photographic influence right now. But I think my biggest like diva inspo um is always and forever Rihanna, just because she like embodies like the confidence and the bad bitchery that I want to embody. Um so yeah, I'm always looking up to her. Like she will always be a role model for me. I'm like sitting here waiting for her next album. Like it's been years, Queen, please. Like I would love to model for Savage Fenty and Fenty Beauty, like and like just the clothes. Like yeah, please Rihanna, book me if you're ever. Um, I think my biggest goal is just continuing to expand the boundaries of modeling for trans women, and like I would love to do yeah, like a lingerie brand like Fenty, or I mean people always say Victoria's Secret, but they're dead and dying. But yeah, like lingerie modeling for Fenty, or like swimsuit, like Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, like bringing trans identities into those spaces and also bringing them into more high fashion spaces through modeling. And like yeah, I just hope to work with more clients as a model and like add to that representation in the industry. And I think a personal goal for myself that's a little bit more immediate is just like I would love to continue working on the photo book that I have been producing. And like it was a project that I started before Corona happened in quarantine, and like production had to like be stopped because I couldn't be photographing people anymore. But as restrictions continue to be lifted, like I've started going back out and like photographing people.
Yeah.
And so I think a really big goal for me is to put together and publish my first photo book. Yeah. Um, I mean, I think it's super important to support drag artists and artists in general, because the job of being an artist rarely offers stability. Like you never know what your next day is going to look like. And for these drag artists, and for like any freelance artists out there, like when this happened, like they kind of all just got shut down, like without any guarantee of like when they would be able to go back to like making a living again. And like, I think an artist's job or like an artist's role is to hold up a mirror to society. And I think drag artists like definitely play a role in that with what they do. And it's an art form that we can't let, you know, go extinct. Like it's a beautiful and expressive art form that has been around for so long and plays with all of the rules of gender and breaks them. And I think that that is so important. And so we can't let an art form like that go extinct. And that's why we need to support it in a time like this.